historic Fate, here in the city of Fate, we have strong ties to our past as we build toward the future. The unique name of the town is derived from a nickname of one of two residents, either William Lafayette Brown or G.W. Lafayette Peyton, which former resident named the city has been debated for years. According to a 1976 city document, there is considerable agreement that the town was named for William Lafayette Brown. However, there are no absolute evident records for verification of the inception of the town's name. Therefore, it will never be known for sure. What is known is that there are two influential gentlemen nicknamed Fate who lived in the area during the 1860s. Three important aspects of life played a role in the naming of our city: land ownership, a post office, and the railroad. Since the town was small, it is likely that both the Brown and Peyton families were common relatives with Fate's first postmaster, Harvey Peyton White, and could have been named after either or both men. The town of Fate was settled shortly after the Civil War in the 1860s and is located 1.5 miles to the north of its current location, which is 1.5 miles to the north of its current location on Farm to Market Road 552. The area was known as an oasis for travelers as the wells never ran dry, even during the droughts. William Lafayette Fate Brown was born in 1835 and died in 1903. He was born in Mississippi, and he had 3 children with his wife, Lilia A. Brown. Brown was a leading member of the community who ran a feed store. Brown was integral in establishing the post office in 1880. Until this time, the settlers received their mail by stagecoach. According to legend, he proposed calling the area Brown Springs after his surname and the the natural springs of the land. However, being that there was already a Brown Springs post office in Texas, Mrs. Brown suggested calling the area Lafayette's nickname Fate. The Fate post office was established on July 13, 1880, with Harvey Peyton White as the first postmaster. The little history that we know about George Washington Lafayette Fate Peyton, born 1835, died 1915, comes from the 1880 and the 1910 census and land records. He was born in Tennessee in 1835 and later moved to Texas to become a vast landowner and farmer. With his first wife, Lucy A. Clayton Peyton, she was born in 1833 and she passed away in 1896. Lafayette had 3 children. After Lucy's death, the 1910 census reports that at the age of 65, he married Rebecca J. Peyton. Today, the Peyton family remains laid to the Mount Zion Cemetery along Farm to Market Road 552. Meanwhile, the neighboring landowner, Dr. Wiley Turner Barnes, and born in 1831, he passed away in 1901, and he came from Alabama. He purchased 320 acres from Mark Crabtree, the original land grantee, on December 24, 1864. This land is the current Fate downtown area. Dr. Barnes owned all of the land on which the town was built. Therefore, he named it after himself. After the settlers moved to the area, Barnes divided his town into lots. The two towns of Fate and Barnes coexisted in harmony. As the area continued to develop, the Missouri-Kansas-Texas Railroad constructed a line to run through Barnes in 1886. This development brought rapid growth to the town. Fate had a post office and Barnes had the MKT Railroad, the two important aspects of life in the late 1800s. Since Barnes had no post office, the people agreed to accept the name of Fate in return for postal services. On February 11, 1887, the two towns combined. The residents of Fate packed and moved their towns either to Royse City, Rockwall, or toward the railroad that still runs through the middle of town today in the city called Fate. William Lafayette Fate Brown moved to Rockwall to become the sheriff in Rockwall County from December 1886 until November 1892. After Brown's career as the Rockwall County Sheriff, he became the Rockwall Postmaster from 1893 until 1897. According to the 1900 census, at the age of 65, Brown was a landlord. Today, the Brown family remains laid to the Rockwall Memorial Cemetery along State Highway 66. By the mid-1880s, Fate had a population of 100. There were 9 businesses in Fate, which included a cotton gin, 2 general stores, and 2 organized churches, the Presbyterian and the Baptist churches. Children attended school in a small 2-room schoolhouse, and most adults held the occupation of farming. After the Civil War in 1861 through 1865, many settlers relocated after other southern states to Texas. These new townsmen were often multi-talented, which resulted in a successful business for Fate. Fate prospered during the late decade of the 1800s. There were 4 practicing doctors, 15 businesses, including 2 grocery stores, 2 cotton gins, a barber shop, a butcher shop, a confectionery, a grain elevator, and the Fate Review newspaper. Macy Zollner and his wife, Elizabeth, established a ranch near Fate in Rockwall County in 1876. Immigrants from Germany by the way of Australia, the Zollners soon developed a successful cotton crop of 320 acres. For labor, they hired men of every profession who were temporarily unemployed. Because of this practice, their place became known as the Hobo Ranch. Zollner's son, Matthew, and grandson, Henry, continued this hiring practice until 1979. The town made history on August 1st, 1899, when it became the first town in Texas to have a rural mail route. This route was designated as Route 3 on September the 2nd, 1901. Fate became incorporated in 1900 and was a busy and bustling town. The city had the distinction of being the smallest town in the smallest county and the largest state in the Union. Fate's population had grown to 500, not including the many farm families located around Fate. The town was growing, the real estate market was prosperous, and farmers were doing well. In addition, Fate had enough families to serve 4 church buildings. On December 31st, 1906, the town was devastated when a fire engulfed the south side of the business district. There was no fire station nearby and not enough buckets of water to combat the blaze. Some of the businesses rebuilt. However, the fire was a blow to the residents who had envisioned Fate as growing into a large city. From 1907 to 1910, some growth continued. The first bank was established, and the word on everyone's lips was baseball. Everyone in and around Fate came to the games and could be heard yelling, "Strychnine, quinine, blue suits, and fuss. What in the deuce is the matter with us? Nothing at all, nothing at all. Where are the boosters of Fate baseball?" Tragedy struck again in 1910 when another fire destroyed the north side of the town. The 2 fires in 10 years were detrimental to the growth of Fate. However, growth continued slowly as a new brick school building was constructed in 1911 for the cost of $13,000. In 1920, a branch of the coast-to-coast Bankhead National Highway came through Fate on Highway 67. The roadway extended from Washington, D.C. to San Diego, California. By the way of Alabama, the home of U.S. Senator John H. Bankhead, and a major supporter of the highway. Its path crossed approximately 850 miles of Texas, entering in Texarkana and exiting through El Paso. The Depression of the 1930s and the fall of the price of cotton from 42 cents per pound down to just 6 cents per pound resulted in some farmers losing their land. As a result of the falling and failing economy, other businesses were forced to close as well. And on July the 4th, 1933, a tornado destroyed most of the town. Due to the lack of money and a low population, much of the town was never rebuilt. The population decreased to 194. As times were hard, debts were piling up, and money was scarce. The high school was discontinued due to declining enrollment, and leaving only an elementary school. The empty buildings were a reminder of what Fate had been in the past. The membership of the four churches had dwindled. Therefore, the four churches combined into one united church. Some may have seen this as a negative. However, it positively affected the town by bringing the people of Fate together and forming a tightly knit community. During the 1940s and the 1950s, the population continued to decline in Fate. World War II, followed by the Korean War, called many into service. Fate lost all of its mail routes. The school became a one-teacher school, and the railroad depot was sold to the Dallas Old City Park. By 1950, the population had dwindled to 150, and the Fate School closed its door due to lack of enrollment in 1949. As a result, each family chose which school district to send their children, to either Royse City ISD or Rockwall ISD. The Royse City Bank gave the school building to Fate, and the local men tore the building down. They used the lumber of the school to build the community center that still is down in downtown Fate today. They sold the bricks to raise the funds. As the Dallas commuter slowly began to discover the small town, Fate began to see an increase in population again. In the 1960s, the Katy Railroad donated land for a youth baseball field, and a new sewer system was built. In the 1970s, the city council began to dream of an expansion in the neighborhood called Wood Creek. The Syntex developer gave the city of Fate a fire truck in 1975. In the early 1980s, the police and telephone companies adopted the 911 system. This required the streets to be named and the houses to be numbered. Fate City Council appointed a committee who named the north-south streets for citizens of Fate and the east-west streets after trees. City Hall was remodeled, and Fate celebrated its sesquicentennial. By the 1990s, Fate's population had grown to 475. The Fate grocery store, Bronson's Upholstery, Printer's Machinery, and Barber's Family Restaurant opened its door to the Fate community. With the development of subdivisions like Sleepy Hollow, Northview, and Melody Ranch, in 2002, the population had grown to 1,145. The community and the suburban sprawl began a population boom, and within 1 year, the city saw a 51% increase to 2,030 folks. Fate was growing exponentially. In 2005, 200 homes were constructed in Wood Creek. Despite the 2008 U.S. housing crisis, the town trend continued until 2010, and the population grew to 6,357. Today, Fate's current population is estimated to just over 18,000. The downtown area is being revitalized, and the business area is beginning to build along the I-30 corridor, which is such as Stagg's Plaza, Speck's Wine, Spirits, and Finer Foods, and the Fresh by Brookshire's. There are more than 7 subdivisions, including Wood Creek, Williamsburg, Spring Meadows, Melody Ranch, Chamberlain Crossing, Sleepy Hollow, and Northview Estates. New parks and schools are being built to support the growing community. But within all the new developments in the city, we still pay homage to those who laid the foundation of this town. The Fate community was and still is filled with hardworking individuals that are resilient, influential, and tightly knit together. The names of some of these individuals can be seen all over Rockwall County. Former current residents have streets and buildings named after them. Doris Albion Jones, Dorothy Smith Pullen, Billy Stevenson, Doris Cullens, Miss May Vernon, and Bobby Summers were all lifelong Fate residents and had contributed to the education of children and have had schools named after them. C.D. Bourne Parkway, W.E. Crawford Avenue, Brown Avenue, Ralph Hall, and Leonard Way are just a few of the roads named after influential residents. As Fate continues to grow, we learn and lean on the people of the past for their examples of fortitude and frontiersman spirit that has laid a long and strong foundation for tomorrow.